But it's not just those cuts that are going through. We have the clean energy tax credits are going to be eliminated somewhere between the end of this year and early next year. We know that Medicare cuts to the tune of what I've seen is around $500 billion are going into effect also very quickly as a result of this bill. And because the Medicaid cuts are coming, some of them are going to come earlier than 2026. And the hospitals that are going to have to take into account the impact of these coming Medicaid cuts are also going to be adjusting their behavior. And
I believe we've already seen a rural hospital in Nebraska close as a result of this bill making it through the House. There are just a lot of hospitals out there that have been acquired by private equity, and those rural hospitals are run for profit in some cases. And a lot of those that are run for profit are going to be closed down before the Medicaid cuts even fully come into effect, because they just aren't going to be seen as profitable enough to prop up and continue having around. So it is that is already hitting that effect.
We would expect some of those impacts to come early as well. So the answer is it's somewhat complex. I believe that the most visible sign that you're going to see of this bill going through, if you're somebody who doesn't pay
Again, rural hospital closures is exactly another reason to get involved in state and local politics, because in some cases there will be hospitals that can be kept open if the state or the city were to provide enough funding.
attention to politics, is suddenly there's a
Or alternatively, perhaps an opportunity opens up for the city or the state to buy the hospital back from private equity and run it themselves at, cost instead of at a profit.
massive Gestapo army that's raging through the countryside and in the city centers that didn't exist before. That is going to
Also, understand that Ezra and Leah, I hope you guys have understood by now from their tone and tenor, the way they present information, that they are not prone to hyperbole. These are pretty grounded people. And the fact that they are talking about ICE as an active Gestapo arm, that's a really bad sign. These are not people who run around hair on fire screaming, like, oh, like making a big deal out of nothing. No, these are people who are relatively down to earth. And that is a bit more chilling to hear them talk about ICE functioning as a Gestapo arm, a secret police. Yeah, failsafe. Earlier in stream, other people reporting getting that same email from the Social Security Administration patting the government on the back for screwing over taxpayers.
to be the immediate impact, and you might see some visible impact on a preferred tax credit, or maybe your rural hospital, your local hospital might be impacted. But they have designed this in some ways for smart politics because they hope that they don't have to face the voters with these cuts already being baked into the voters' decisions.
Or that where they are, they're pushing them onto the state governments.
That's right. The question was, what can state governments do to prevent the worst of these cuts? I mean, the answer is sure. The states could theoretically fully fund Medicaid. The states could theoretically fully fund SNAP. They don't have the money for it. I mean, that's why the federal government has stepped in. That is how Medicaid got expanded. It has been free money to the states or just about free money to the states to expand Medicaid. It's been free money to the states to expand SNAP. It's the federal government that is coming in and taking nutrition assistance away from children. It's taking medical assistance away from workers. Like, that is what is happening with these cuts. And the federal budget can do that. Most state governments are not going to be able to step in and fully make whole. We got Orchard City Indivisible in San Jose.
Hyperbolic language can help rally their base, considering the left throws it around a lot. I mean, it can. I don't know that, but the point I was trying to make is that these are people who are not prone to using hyperbolic language. Therefore, them using a term that seems hyperbolic holds more impact and weight.
And around San Jose, what prevents U.S. reps and U.S. senators from using the U.S. Capitol Police Force, Congress's own law enforcement agency, and officers to facilitate their immediate entry into U.S. ICE's civil immigration detention facilities to which they are being denied immediate access, and to accompany and provide them security protection during their statutorily empowered and authorized unannounced oversight visits and inspections inside those facilities? The legislative branch needs to force this issue with its co-equal branch in the federal government, the outlaw executive. That's a well-written question, Eric. And Leah, do you have I appreciate the overall orientation of this, which is how can our electeds get entrepreneurial in how they push back against this Gestapo force? I think that is the basic question we should be asking. But specific thoughts on this?
Yeah, so the basic, the framing of this question for
like it would genuinely be really good for us to have a slate of demands we can make of our democratic local politicians. You know, like it'd be really good to come up with a basic building blocks of here are some bare bones protections we need, like bare minimum. This is what we need from you as a city government, as a state government. This is what we require in order to be safe and in order to like protect our neighbors and our friends and our families and our loved ones. This is what we need. It'd be really, I think genuinely, maybe Gamergy, Dragonfly, maybe we can figure out a group of people in this community to collaborate on coming up with policy proposals like that. Yeah, like specific policy demands that can be implemented in a city, on a city level, and on the state level. I think that like coming up with two slates of policy positions like that could be really, really useful in guiding local level response.
At my DSA meeting, we discussed how to engage with our local city officials and what our demands should be from them.
But I think like maybe we need like a I don't know, a building block to send out into the world. I think that'd be a really good idea. If some of you want to work on that, I'll definitely help boost that and get that out there into the world. Okay? We should have city and rural demands separated, and one for red and blue counties. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Folks who are not tracking this is that members of Congress, as Eric notes, have the right and have the ability to do investigations, immediate investigations.
Would you be down for a call and signal about the proposals this DSA convention on an off day? No, I have too much on my plate right now. I'm sorry. I'm doing like 12 dozen things right now, both personally and organizingly.
And immediate access.
If you started, I'll take part in it. Okay, I'll talk with the mod team and figure out what we can do.
Access to immigrant detention facilities. ICE has simply said that it will not be letting them do that. And like I believe that they're demanding like a week in advance notice or something along those lines. Again,
one of the unfortunate things is that we are not all positioned in order to be like. I would love to have the time and like the emotional bandwidth to be able to take that DSA call. I just don't. I'm like operating at max capacity right now. It's often dependent on what your state and city is like. Some things work in some cities that don't in others. Yeah, I just mean like a general like template people can use to like demand things of their city and state government.
Again, a pretty dramatic demonstration that I simply does not consider itself accountable to civilian oversight. I don't know the answer to the specific question about like whether you could have the Capitol Police Force do that. I'm like just quite candidly, I think there's probably some specifics there about what the Capitol Police Force will and will not do in and outside of the Capitol. But I think the basic idea of like this should be a place where Democrats continue to plant a flag and demand answers and think creatively about how do they escalate is really important because. Again, we have this ongoing fight within the Democratic Party about is it a good idea to talk at all about immigration? And there are people within the Democratic Party who very explicitly do not think we should have ever raised a stink about Kilmar Abrego Garcia being kidnapped and imprisoned in El Salvador, who do not think that pushing back on.
Also, news story today, lawyer for Kilmar Abrego Garcia and the lawyers for the other people still in El Salvador, in CCOT, are claiming that inmates are systematically tortured in the facility. One of the bits of information that has been released about Kilmar Abrego Garcia's time in custody in CCOT was that in the first like 2 weeks he lost 31 pounds, which if you lose 31 pounds in 2 weeks, chat, not only are you being starved, you are losing weight in a wide variety of other ways that can only really indicate torture. So, yeah, we're not doing a deep dive on that at the moment, but like, understand the right thing to do here is to advocate for like all these third country deportations to stop, for the willful torturing of detainees to stop. We need to defeat and dismantle this machine.
The Los Angeles, the protesting in Los Angeles and pushing back on the National Guard was a good idea. Their basic take is kind of like any day that the word immigration is anywhere near a headline is a bad day.
It would make it still a concentration camp, Comrade Girl.
For us, so we should just kind of stay quiet. And our analysis, again, based on this theory that like the administration is using immigration as the wedge by which they crack open the door and come for all of us and all of our constitutional rights, you can't just stay quiet. You can't, you can't do it morally, but you also can't do it strategically because they are intentionally escalating against immigrants in order to create the conditions in which they have authoritarian control over all of America. So very much supportive of Democrats trying to figure out if it's not this, then what does raise the temperature here?
Yeah, I think this is the front lines. Like this is where we are going to see them try to dig in, and we have to figure out how we push back. And it's not going to just be calling your member of Congress. It's not going to be a specific piece of legislation. This is where the trainings that we're doing this month go. It is.
Yeah, again, this is why I'm going to link it in chat again. Consider getting involved with this training, chat. It will train you on how to organize. It will train you on how to organize under pressure, under threat. And we need to have people with these skill sets. We need to have you guys educated so that when shit really hits the fan, y'all know what to do and how to organize the people around you. That's really, really important. I cannot stress enough. It has the potential to be existentially important for you and yours, okay? Because this ICE shit, this immigration enforcement that they are expanding, it is not just to be used on undocumented immigrants. Republicans are already yucking it up about, oh, what if we get all Latinos in the camps? Ha ha ha, hilarious jokes. But they're not jokes. My interactions with the fascist elements of America over the last decade, they're not jokes. They are always joking until one day they're not, and they just seriously mean the joke. So it is existentially important to understand that their goal and intent is to use this not just on undocumented immigrants, not just on the criminals, but also on U.S. citizens, also on inconvenient U.S. politicians, also on people who'd be just, nicer if they just disappeared. Understand that we need to organize to prevent the worst of this. It is vitally important, not just to your personal well-being, but to the well-being of every single person you love who is here in America. All right? Organize.
Okay, the legislation has been passed. Now what do we do? How can we collectively organize? I wish it was as simple as call your member of Congress. Then we could just issue a national call. And actually, this gets to the next question. So let's go to it. Elsie says, national strike. Please offer a survey to indivisible leaders and ask them if their chapters are ready to call for a national strike now. Caveat, striking is like a muscle. We must begin to organize strike events. The strike can begin as a one-day strike and then grow increasingly in days. I am pro getting to a place where we can strike. We talk about a strike just about every week, about having a national strike here. The thing is, if we can't get people to come to a training, we cannot get people to engage in a long-term strike.
And I mean, like, that's fundamentally one of the issues here, okay? I've seen people throw out national strike every single time we talk about organizing on this channel as well, and understand that a national strike is not something that can just really happen under normal circumstances. Understand that a strike requires planning, it requires resources, it requires the organization of an entire workplace, if not industry. And a lot of places in America do not have that kind of organization. However, we are heading into some pretty uncertain times, and some pretty wild possibilities are opening up. And my point of encouragement to get us towards that point of a national general strike would be to look at if you are part of a union, talk to your union leadership and figure out, hey, maybe we can set like a strike day and work with other unions that we have connections. Maybe there's some way to start those talks now, because we need to start organizing now if they're even going to be a possibility down the road. Okay? And Ezra is completely right. It's kind of like one of those things where if you can't even get people to like go out and cast a vote, you can't get people to like do a general strike. Like, you're asking people to give up their income, potentially lose their job, and lose the healthcare that may keep them or a loved one in their family alive. And that is a big ask if there is no like infrastructure around them to help them survive that. Okay? What if we helped plan a fundraiser with a bunch of streamers for what? Could volunteering at your local animal shelter or helping out at a homeless shelter be of some use to fight back against Trump? Helping out at your local homeless shelter is never a waste of your time. Never. Showing solidarity and demonstrating mutual aid in your community is never a waste of time, and may in fact be one of the best ways to build those social connections that are so important for grassroots organizing. Super Jet Guy, that is nowhere near enough for a general strike fund. We're asking people to give up daily wages for potentially weeks. We're asking them to give up, potentially their child's cancer treatment for weeks. Like, it requires a much larger organizing apparatus than we currently have.
We don't have the power yet. We've got to work this muscle, build up, train people on how it's done, and then prepare for what this actually looks like. But so I am pro national strike. I'm pro having 3.5% of the public organized. And if I had a button that said national strike, I'd press it. I'd be pressing it repeatedly. I don't have that button. Instead, what I have...
Again, the best route forward is for unions to organize together. And that is going to be dictated by people within the union advocating for that within the union. Unions typically have large war chests specifically for strikes. And like, if we do see strikes like that happen, I'm all on board with raising money for striking workers. Without any of the surrounding support and infrastructure, raising money to as like a strike fund, workers we don't know are even going to be striking, it's just a non-starter.
Is the ability to talk to everybody here and build towards it piece by piece. So how do we get there? We all show up on Thursday, July 17th. I know it's annoying that it's a Thursday. I'm sorry. We got to learn how to show up on a Thursday. If we can't show up.
Also, I know I'm not the biggest streamer out there, but it's hard out there being a translator. A lot of people don't take you seriously.
On a Thursday, are we going to do a national strike? No, we're going to show up on Thursday. So please pull out, make plans, get your community out, show up on a Thursday. Then let's talk about what's the next action.
Genuinely, I've heard a lot of people really upset about the fact that this organizing event that is coming up on July 17th, that it's on a Thursday. But we need to, excellent point. If you can't get people out on a Thursday, you are definitely not going to be able to get people to do a general strike. Again, this is part of the flexing and building our muscles, okay? It is vital that you show up to these protests, even when they are not perfectly convenient for you, because it builds that organizing muscle, okay? It builds that organizing muscle. It helps you to get out there and, gets you acclimated to the task, and it makes it easier for you to advocate for the task. And yes, exactly, Gamer G. Go to your meetings. Go to your local organizing meetings. Go to your local town hall meetings. It literally takes a couple hours of your day, all right? Every week. Couple hours every week. And you know what? It is 90% of the work. 90% is just becoming a recognizable figure that people trust and understand. So show up to your meetings. Show up to protests. Actually, people are upset that 5051 leadership picked July 17th when some wanted July 4th to be the date. Well, 5051 leadership didn't pick July 17th. It's like a gigantic group of different organizations picking different days. And people are upset that July 17th was chosen because it's a Thursday, which yeah, it's harder to organize on a Thursday, but you know what? People are gonna have to put on their big boy pants and, like, I don't know, step up to the plate. The challenge of going out to a protest on a Thursday. Like, genuinely, if you're not ready to go out to a protest on a Thursday, like, what you want to stand in front of like a fascist army and you think you and like stop them, but you can't go out on a Thursday? Come on. Let's see here. Also, July 4th, people are with their families. It's just a shit day to organize a protest on. It's a much better day to advocate for people to go to the various public events that their elected representatives are going to be at with their cameras in order to confront them about the bill that they just voted on that will kill Americans. A lot of actions you can do tomorrow.
Are we pulling more people in? We have to build and build and build. So I understand the calls for this national strike. The worst thing that we could do, though, is...
Well, it's great that you want to stand against a fascist army and stop them. So that means you'll be able to show up to a protest that's on a Thursday, right? That's not an insurmountable hurdle for you.
Project that we have all this strength that does not yet actually exist, because that is a big flashing sign to the authoritarians that we can be steamrolled. And we do not want to send that sign. We want to build real power that can actually step up to the authoritarians. And what we know from the experts in authoritarianism is that what we do is we gradually build this in specific actions that mobilize different populations over time. That is...
Wait, why did they choose July 17th? Let me grab something for you to help you.
Can I pencil my march to the Gulag in for a Tuesday?
Well, if it works better for your schedule. Also, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. Appreciate the support for this channel. The reason that July 17th was chosen is because, again, a bunch of different organizations got together and decided that part of a winning strategy is to expand the coalition and to have different organizing events that are going to attract new and different people who will be able to step up when larger demonstrations are called later. Okay? So part of this goal is to get together like people who didn't come out for No King's Day, but will come out for this. And it is being held on the anniversary of the passing of John Lewis, a civil rights icon. Linking the organizing website for the protest, which is called Good Trouble Lives On. And you can, in fact, see where people are hosting different protest events. You can, of course, add your own pin here. But yeah, that the reason they picked it is intentional. It's not just like on a whim they chose July 17th from a hat.
Is what we're doing. So please understand, I do not oppose a national strike. I want to get there, but we've got to bring everybody together with us. And that's the process that we're engaged in right now. So again, highly recommend July 16th is a Wednesday. That's the first of the 1 Million Rising training. July 17th is a Thursday. We're all going to show up on Thursday, right, Leah? We're going to be out there? We're going to be out there on a Thursday. Okay, can't wait. Okay, next question from George. To prepare the way for Earth 3, Leah's talked about Earth 3 a lot. Mm-hmm. Now that the big ugly bill has passed Congress, how do we help Americans realize the degradation of U.S. society and world standing is a consequence of turning over the government to greedy, self-serving, incompetent people who dumb down the population and know nothing about what it takes to run a powerful, innovative, just, and adaptable society? Could midnight showings of Mike Judge's 2006 film Idiocracy, which is a hilarious film, or rather, it was a hilarious film at the time, and now it is really, it is too real, go viral and awaken the citizens to the downward spiral of America at the hands of Trump and the oligarchy? Would it attract younger people to protest against the assault on democracy? The film seems over the top 20 years ago, but unfortunately now seems prophetic. So I think let me pull out some specific question here, which is one issue we face is how do we awaken a broader set of the population to the fact that their rights are under threat, Leah? Because right now, we 2 weeks ago put together what was one of, if not the largest single-day protest in American history with no king.
Genuinely, this is a point that I struggle with a little bit because, I see the comments of people talking in my YouTube comments, and occasionally people will pop into chat and be like, haha, we elected Trump, get ready to go to concentration camps, losers. And it is interesting to me that they don't recognize that they are in the same peril and in the same boat as the rest of us. And they seem to think that like loyalty to Trump will protect them when it has protected literally nobody else. But I am curious if they have any advice to reach people who otherwise think this is not going to affect them.
King's Day. We brought out more people in more communities all across the world than this country has seen. And also we recognize that is a step in the path of pulling in even more people. What is the next step in getting more people? How do we get younger people involved? How do we get people who think politics is bullshit involved? How do we get people who think the Democratic Party is feckless and corrupt involved? How do we grow this movement and make people understand that it's worth their time?
Yeah. I will just say I'm gonna take a slightly different line here, which is that I think a lot of the people doing this stuff are very dumb.
Yes, idiocracy does slide into some weird eugenics territory.
I think some of them are very smart.
Yeah.
I think that the people who worked out the 40-year plan for the right wing and the white Christian nationalists to take control of the government, to capture the judiciary, to develop the infrastructure necessary to get to this moment are quite smart. I do not think we win when we fragment this in terms of like our side smart, their side dumb. I would encourage us to like think really carefully about what it takes to reach people who are not already with us. Because if they were with us, they'd be with us already. And so I think just being like, they're really stupid and we over here, we're smart, that's not going to get it. We got to talk to people about values, and we got to talk to them about the ways that they are experiencing the consequences of Republican rule.
Organize and fight against fascism in King Oliver's memory. Hypers.
We always love King Oliver picks. What an adorable little guy. Rest in peace, buddy. Oh, little sweater. Rest in peace, King. And Smelanie, thank you for the $5 dono. Very much appreciated.
In their own lives, right? Whether it is an attack on their community and somebody that they know and care about, whether it is an attack on services, whether it is an attack on the job of someone that they care about, we actually like have to, and we also have to listen, right? We have to like understand how this stuff is manifesting for people. So I do just want to push back a little bit. I think that sometimes we can get, because we understand exactly how horrifying this is, and because we understand how like insanely counterproductive all of this is, we can kind of like all get together and like lose our ability to talk to people who aren't already with us. And most of the people who are not already with us, they're not with us not because we can't reach them, but because they don't believe the system works for them. They've checked out of politics in some meaningful way. And so it's not about saying those folks are dumb over there. It's about saying, here's a system and here's a world that could work for us. And here's the path for you to believe it's worth your time to engage.
Also worth pointing out, again, in the same vein as like a national strike, understand that organizing mass protest and a mass movement that rejects the authoritarian moment is going to require us to work alongside people we are not ideologically in lockstep with, right? The same way a union functions. In a union, not everyone is ideologically in lockstep. There are plenty of unions in this country where there are a lot of conservatives. There are a lot of people who just lean conservative or who have checked out of politics entirely. And so part of what we need to do when we are looking at organizing in the main is that we need to figure out a way to rein ourselves in and understand that the people who are coming together for very specific reasons and purposes, and we are not going to agree with them on everything, but it needs to be enough that we agree with them in the rejection of this authoritarianism and the rejection of this fascism and the rejection of this police state. It needs to be enough that we stand together with them on those issues, and maybe we can get them on some other ones like Medicare for all. After we win, we can dissolve and have our infights, all we want. But we need to defeat this existential moment before we can do that.
Listen, Lee and I are married. We don't always agree on everything. I think there are plenty of Republican members of Congress who are dumb as a bag of rocks.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's very dumb people out there. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying that's not the line I would take for anybody who's not already with me.
That's true. It can both be right. It can both. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's not how I would engage with like normal everyday voters who think the system is rigged and they shouldn't pay attention. They actually have a big point there.
Mr. Anderson, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships over on YouTube. I very, very much appreciate it. Thank you for thank you to the Union Man vote. Appreciate it.
Okay, so let's go on. We're going to go to the next top voted question from Florence. Any lawsuits in the works regarding the BBB? Absolutely, there will be. We're not.
Oh God, Smelanie, after when we defeat this fascist movement, I'm gonna go nuts. It's gonna be a party for the ages. I will be historically hungover. Okay, it's gonna be wild, and I'm excited for the day. I'll wear something really slutty too. I'll be twerking in the streets. Hell yeah! I'll be strutting like a slut. It'll be great.
A legal firm, so I would look to protect democracy. I would look to oh
Worth
gosh, I'm
noting
blanking
that
on.
you should absolutely go after the non-voters and disillusioned voters way before going to conservatives and trying to woo them.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't be sank. Sank.
Absolutely, Saket Energy, 100%. Though I think what they're talking about in the context of like local organizing is how to talk to like local people. If you are like an average person talking to another average person, it does not behoove you to just call them a moron, you know? For my purposes, as like a political figure, as a somewhat political communicator, maybe. Yeah, my priority is going to be on mobilizing people who already kind of track on the left with where I'm at, as well as people who have kind of disconnected from politics. Those are my priorities to efficiently communicate with people. But if you're doing some grassroots organizing and a conservative shows up to your local meeting, like don't just call them a moron and like tell them to fuck off. You know, they showed up to try and help you. But yes, point taken.
The name of the other organization that we've worked with a lot that does legal work. Sky Perryman's.
Democracy Forward?
Yeah,
God, maybe by the time we're through all this, we can actually do the Riverboat Jack party. That'd be fun.
Democracy Forward. They're leading a lot of the legal work. DemocracyDocket, I'm seeing there as well. Yes. So supportive of those things. It's not our specialty.
Oh, hell yeah,
I'm happy that the courts have been standing in from time to time. I also think we can't just rely on the courts. Ultimately, whether or not we win is going to depend on a combination of the institutional supports, including the courts standing strong, and normal everyday people organizing. It's going to require both of those things. Next question from Nina. Trump is using immigration as his sword to die on and has a lot of approval there. The building up of militarized state with National Guard and Marines still in California. How do we appeal to either party to stop this abuse of power? We've covered this a bit, but just to say, what he has done in LA is deeply unpopular. It is deeply unpopular. What he has did to Abrego Garcia, deeply unpopular.
INB for IRL Riverboat party on actual Riverboat.
No, that's what I meant by the Riverboat Jack party. It's we like a long time ago, early on in the stream, I was like, yeah, someday we'll be big enough to have a real party on a real riverboat, and I think that would be fun at some point as like a community activity.
There is this sense the Republicans win on immigration, and that is, I think, in the abstract true. In the abstract, they are stronger on immigration as a political issue, but in the specifics, he is fracturing his coalition. Joe Rogan has criticized him for what he did to Abrego Garcia. Joe Rogan's not our friend when it comes to Trump, when it comes to MAGA, but even he doesn't like what they are doing to trample American rights. When you look at the polling on the militarization of LA, protests are almost never popular. Usually the public looks at mass protests and they say, well, we don't like the protesters. We don't like the activists. That's not what they say about LA. They are frustrated.
True. That is a good point. That is a very good point. For the most part, the mass demonstrations that have taken place in America to date, especially with the indivisible and 50-51 protests, have been overwhelmingly positively received. And that is not historically how protest movements have been received in this country or in most countries. We have a lot of things going for a nonviolent, peaceful political movement of resistance. And usually part of the difficulty of those is overcoming political resentment and creating a new view of the protests as a positive rather than a negative. But we have already kind of overcome that hurdle, which is great. Let's see here. Thought I saw a comment to respond to. it's going to be like that scene from The Matrix where they had the party for liberating, except with more sweaty sex. Jesus.
And angry with the Trump administration for how they are militarizing LA. They lose on this issue. So how do we win? How do we pull people over to our side? We organize as best we can in these communities to push back against this egregious federal overreach in our communities. And it's coming. As we said, it is coming. I think they're going to do a lot of damage, but politically they are overplaying their hand.
Oh, somebody asked about Jacob Marr. This might be a stupid question, but should I also speak with my political science professor about how to get involved as a college student? I mean, that wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. Like, look around for different political orgs you can join, but like, I don't see anything wrong with asking a professor of political science what you can do.
They are overplaying.
I'm presuming here that your professor isn't just like cartoonishly evil. If they are, don't, disregard their opinion.
In their hand. Trump does not have the support to replicate his militarization of LA in 50 cities around the country. He just does not have the support to do that. He believes he can do it. Stephen Miller is telling him he can do it and should do it. Some Republicans support him doing it. MAGA would like them to do it, but the population of this country does not support that. And the worst thing we can do is say, immigration, I don't know. We shouldn't be talking about that. That's a loser issue for us. Let's just talk about Medicaid. Let's just talk about the economy. We shouldn't talk about ICE. That's dangerous. We lose. No, we need to meet them where they are, where the attacks are coming. And that is the front line right there. It really is. So we've got to prepare to organize.
Unironically, the current Dem leadership approach.
Oh, God, what is this?
You see,
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs.
killbots have a preset kill limit. Knowing their weakness, I sent wave after wave of my own men at them until they reached their limit and shut down. Kiff, show them the medal I won.
It really is. They've been patting themselves on the back for Hakeem Jeffries giving a slightly longer than usual speech.
Directly to put pressure on elected officials and institutions to not just accept what ICE and CBP and the rest of the deportation force mechanism is doing. We've got to organize to make that happen. I think it's, as Leah said already, it's not just the morally right thing to do. It is that. It is also the politically advantageous thing to do. It shouldn't even require political courage for an elected representative to do this. They will win votes if they actively push back against this federal overreach.
That's right. And I do just want to lift up something from the chat.
Yeah.
Martha, incredible Georgia leader, notes, and when you're doing this locally, do it in partnership with immigration organizers. Okay.
That is actually a really, really good shout out. When you are organizing locally, when you are looking around and you're like, okay, I'm going to start organizing in this area, one of the number one things you want to do is reach out to other orgs in the area that have pre-existing organizational structures that might have goals that align with yours. Okay? Reach out to, the different groups. There are probably groups aligned on, like, when it comes to immigration. And also, hey, maybe your local homeless shelter is willing to partner with you. Hey, maybe your local, start with these different groups and bring them together. Bring the leadership of these groups together, get them involved in your organizing efforts as well, because then you can truly grow something that is representative of your community, and you can do it relatively quickly by relying on these pre-existing organizational structures. Okay? Yeah, you got to build coalitions, What will organizing do against a second military, though? Do we even stand a chance? Nonviolent grassroots organizing, statistically, is extremely effective at undermining and stopping and undoing authoritarian rule. It is far more effective than insurgent warfare or terrorism at getting positive political change, and genuinely understand that part of the issue is for the authoritarian is that they have concentrated so much power, and that power is not enough to clamp down on every street in every city. It's not enough to cover the vast tracts of land in rural America. It is not enough. You can throw all the money you want into it, but understand that, like, ultimately a true grassroots movement that is made up of millions upon millions of people working together and coordinating together is just not it makes the authoritarian's task untenable and impossible. Okay, because the one of the opening examples given in Erica Chenoweth's book on nonviolent resistance involves, like, I forget which country, but it involves like an authoritarian dictatorship that decided it would try and clamp down on grassroots organizing, and so people wound up getting shot at peaceful protests. But then what that organizing movement did was they turned the funerals for those shot into even bigger protests. And it wound up being like this cycle that just got bigger and bigger and bigger until those protests were just completely unmanageable, until people across society were aligned in purpose, and the working class of that country said, we're not going to do any more work, and they forced the resignation of the dictator. This is something that does happen, and we can do it here too, in order to resist this massive overreach by immigration enforcement. Okay, it is grim, but insurgent warfare historically does not work. So I would again highly recommend you read Erica Chenoweth's book on nonviolent resistance. If you are, Imran or Imcom, I would recommend you check out her book. It's very good, and it's full of like actual good data and number crunching on the issue. And I think it will help answer that question. What story are you referencing? It's one of the first examples given in Eric Chenoweth's book on nonviolence.
Generally going to be local immigrant rights organizers, collectives, organizations in your community. They are the folks who will have the best guidance on what is most strategic for you to be doing locally in order to boost their efforts. Do partner with them. It is important that we kind of collectively spread the word and then we push our electeds, but it's also important that when we're taking local action, we're doing it.
I have not read Leah's book, but I do know what it's called. Do you have a title?
In partnership with people who are leading the fight here.
Yeah. Okay. Kay asks, do you believe to get double the No Kings numbers of people?
The Kitsune Cavalier. Why are you asking me about someone named Anna? Oh, We Are Indivisible. I have not read her book, but I will check it out. Oh, it's also super short. I could probably just like read that in a sitting. Awesome. I'll check that out. Cool stuff.
I hope there will be big prosecutions when we win. We need true justice after this. Supreme Court justices all the way to us agents who enable this.
True that.
Protesting Activated, Indivisible, and other groups should be putting money, resources behind mass advertising campaigns. Is this in the works? If not, why not? Also, would it be worthwhile to dedicate money, resources to hiring drone photographers to capture professional footage of all future mass national mobilizations, say in the top 100 cities, in order to improve estimates of turnout? This is a great specific question.
I'm going to type out the name because I've said her name multiple times, or their name multiple times. Erica Chenoweth.
Will say, so why aren't we spending massive amounts of money on
Sorry, I believe Erica Chenoweth is non-binary.
Advertising? We don't have massive amounts of money to spend on advertising is the simple answer. We actually, maybe I'll break a little bit of news. Our new media lead, Antonio Ariano, put together an analysis of the No Kings Day protest coverage and the monetary value of the earned media coverage. It was roughly $500 million that Indivisibles earned all across the country by participating in No Kings. $500 million. That's what it would have cost if we wanted to run ads in the local papers and the news stations and New York Times and Washington Post. As little as they covered it, they did cover it some. That's how much it would have cost. That's called earned media. That's what you get when you show up in a way that the press wants to cover. $500 million. Nobody is investing $500 million in growing the movement. The single best way to advertise that we exist is to show the hell up on a Thursday, on July 17th, with your fellow organizers and let people know we're out here and we're fighting for democracy. We are investing some in paid media, especially in non-traditional emerging media. So we actually ran a whole study where we contracted with a set of firms that work with creators over No King's Day to see who works the best and who spreads the message more. We're learning some lessons. We're going to put more money into that, but it's not going to be like Nike level advertising. We just don't have that kind of cash. We're a grassroots operation. Most of our money is going to go into organizing and supporting groups on the ground and to running the program that we have. We just don't have a big advertising budget. What we depend on to spread the word is the thousands of leaders and organizers around the country advertising their groups. Our goal is to get
people like you
more people into your groups so you can do more work, so more people can see it, so then it's a virtuous cycle, so more people come to you. That's our theory. If I had $500 million, I would invest more in advertising. I don't. I do like the drone thing though. The drone coverage, because there were drone shots of many No King's Day protests that were incredible. Just visuals put aside, the ability to count the protest numbers. They were incredible, and that's actually a relatively cheap investment that we should look and see if we can encourage indivisible groups to do. I like the answer. Thank you, Kay, or the question. Thanks, Kay. Okay, Cindy, what can we do other than calling a representative to hold SCOTUS accountable for their overuse of the shadow docket and for basing their decision on their own interpretations of the Constitution?
Gotta say, I fucking despise the current Supreme Court makeup. It's truly one of the most heinous conglomerations of human beings in modern days.
Probably to please their donors.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
The short version is the Supreme Court is designed to be insulated from electoral accountability. That's like literally who they are. And I think we start by being really honest about the fact that they've been captured by the Federalist Society. And we have to build the political will within the opposition party for actual meaningful reform when we have power. Like, I wish there was
there needs to be again. Understand that part of the goal of our organizing movement is to organize not just to undo the police state, not just to improve the lives of everyday Americans, but also to fix the aged, decrepit system that led to this rise of fascism to be possible in the first place. We need to address some of these underlying issues, and there needs to be a popular political will to do those things and to articulate those things. Like impeaching Supreme Court justices, expanding the courts, reforming how the Supreme Court works, maybe reforming how the Electoral College works or getting rid of it entirely. We gotta address some of these systemic issues that are, kind of miring us in an inability to change.
Easier and faster way to hold anyone involved accountable. I think the reality is that, I've seen various versions of protests focusing on the Supreme Court. They do not there's not a lot of evidence that
Citizens United needs to be addressed. Absolutely, Andrew S. For those of you who don't know, JD Vance has a personal pet project going through the courts right now, and I think SCOTUS agreed today to take it up. But it's basically the basic premise of it is to erode and destroy the last remaining campaign finance protections that prevent billionaires from just funneling infinite money into elections. It's some of the let's get rid of the vestigial protections that are still left after Citizens United.
That's necessarily directly responding. I think what we can do is we can create the societal conditions in which they perceive that they have to rule certain ways in order to maintain even a shred of legitimacy. And we can build the political will to reform when we have power. And those are our two things. And I do just want to emphasize, we don't...
genuinely, a lot of the questions about each of these different the courts, or what do we do about ICE? What do we do about, the Supreme Court? What do we do about, insert XYZ, right? It all comes down to just organizing a critical mass of people aligned with the political will to change it for the better. That's it. That is ultimately it. How Zoran Mamdani talks about the political will to freeze the rent, the political will to make buses faster and free, the political will to improve things and protect New Yorkers from ICE. What we are talking about is building up a movement to garner and foster that political will to change not just a city, not just a state, but the entire goddamn country. And that takes some doing, but it can be done.
Have consensus. We don't have anything remotely like consensus within the Democratic Party that there ultimately needs to be meaningful court reform that addresses the Federalist Society capture. We don't Ezra, I don't know. Do you know how many senators are currently on the record for court reform?
It's not a majority in the
It's not a majority. It's not a majority. So if we were in power tomorrow, we do not currently have the consensus among Democrats to meaningfully.
Do you think John Fetterman is going to reform the courts?
Yeah, okay, he's his own case, but like just
Chris Coons isn't going to. Mark Warner isn't going to vote to reform the courts.
Exactly. So we just actually, like, the very first step is getting some amount of consensus within the opposition party that this is a serious problem that requires structural solutions.
I'm going to note we've got 2 more minutes. Lee and we're going to go talk to Jamie Raskin right after this. So we have to hop off at the minute.
Name drop, Ezra.
I love Jamie Raskin. He's my favorite, or among my favorites. But we do have to drop at 2 minutes. I want to flag, we've talked a lot about how we are evolving the theory of change of indivisible to be beyond just pushing members of Congress and push beyond that to what are the pillars of support.
And I'm calm. Yes, I agree. We do need more politicians and people like Zoran Mamdani, but understand that people like Zoran Mamdani, they're not different from you and me. You know, that is one of the reasons why so many times over and over and over again today, I've been making the call for you guys to consider running for office. You know, there is no meaningful distinction between you and someone like Zoran Mamdani. Each one of us has the capacity to become someone like that. And we need to, now is the time, right now is the time to do some introspection, look inward, look at what is going on in our lives, and evaluate, hey, could I run for office right now? And if the answer is yes, do it. Most definitely. I'm 22. I'm too young. You can run for political office at 22. You're not running for the presidency. There aren't like age requirements to be like on the city council. There's not age requirements to be like mayor. You can run for office at 22 years old.
Support for democracy and how can we organize? We are going to be following up to this call with a survey asking you, what are you most interested in? Is it businesses? Is it media institutions? Is it universities? Is it
True, Zoran Mamdani was an average DSA member just 5 years ago, and look at him now.
Is it
got elected to state assembly, and now he's on track to being mayor of New York City.
Nonprofits? How do you want to engage in this work? This isn't going to directly drive, okay, everybody said universities, we're doing that, but it's going to help.
Yeah, you'll have to look at your like local city ordinances and laws and stuff, but like generally speaking, if you're an adult, you can serve in your local government. You don't have to be like a certain age. That might vary from like municipality to municipality or something, but like check out your local laws. Genuinely
help us gauge where is there already interest and where should we be putting more campaign support. So please take a look at that.
One of the guys running like the FBI is like 21 or something. Like they've got like a teenager called Big Balls, like cutting tens of millions of jobs or hundreds of thousands of jobs in the U.S. government. Like you can be in politics if you're 22.
An email, fill out the survey that's coming. That will help us. Next Thursday, we're going to try to do something special next Thursday. Lee and I have been talking about this. It's not fully baked yet, but hopefully we'll be able to dig in a little bit more substantive way into what does it mean to move beyond Congress, to move beyond elected officials and do this fight. We'll try to get a little bit even more practical there. That will then lead into the following training. I just want to note the last question that we didn't get to that was next up was, what can we do about alligator Alcatraz? First of all, I would never call it that. That is Donald Trump and MAGA's frame. You can call it a concentration camp. You can call it alligator Auschwitz if you want, but do not give it their name. It is a bullshit institution meant to torture individuals in this country who they are targeting. We're not going to buy into their branding. What we can do about it is what we've been talking that we can do about it, which is this is not a popular anti-immigrant policy that they are implementing. This administration is overreaching. It is our responsibility to organize and pick the productive, strategic, nonviolent fights with them as they implement this deeply unpopular agenda. That's what we're going to be seeking to do. And because what you have going on in Florida is going to be different than what folks are facing in Texas, which is different than what folks are facing in California. I wish it was as easy as everybody do X thing. The reason why we need to funnel everybody into these trainings is it's going to be different based on where you are. And I don't want to tell everybody to do one thing if that's not the thing everybody should do just because it's simple. We're going to try to move people along a more sophisticated pathway. I know that's tougher. I wish it was easier. I don't get to pick it. The authoritarians are picking this ground, but we're going to fight on it effectively. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm sorry this is such a shitty day. It is a shitty day, but I am so thankful to have this space. I'm thankful to be part of this movement, and I'm proud to be fighting for our democracy in this moment. Leah, any closing thoughts?
Just gratitude and appreciation for everyone here. It's a really bad day, and you still showed up to figure out what do we do next. And we're going to let them have it.
That's right. Okay. I'll see y'all next week. Thanks, everybody.
You know, these guys are out there. They're the real deal. They're doing the work. And I very, very much appreciate that. And one last time, folks, I'm going to link this. This is their training sessions for how to up your political organizing game. They begin July 16th. The second session is on July 30th. And the third session is on August 13th, okay? Each session is about a different element of the training. If you can, try to make it to all three, because the more people out there who understand and have the intellectual tools necessary to go about organizing, the better off we will be, okay? We need people not just online like me talking to you guys through your computer. I'm on a flat screen. I can't see you guys. But if you get trained to do political organizing, you can do the vital work of talking to individual people face to face and getting them to organize and cooperate with you so that we can fight this fascist administration together, okay? That is what the moment requires of us. And I know it's not flashy. I know it is not a fast fix, but this is the necessary work that needs to be done so that we can fix this problem once and for all. Okay? I'll do my best to get a leftist elected. Hell yeah. So that's where we're at, folks. It is a dark day. It is not a super positive day, but understand that we have a job to do. This day is not unexpected. This bill is not unexpected. We knew when Donald Trump won and when they had the Republican majority in Congress that something like this was very likely on the table, especially after Chuck Schumer bartered away the only leverage Democrats had to stop this. And so we are not unprepared. This doesn't take us by surprise, and understand that your job now is to figure out how to organize and meet the moment that is coming.
Can we call the Everglades concentration camp a gulag?
Yes, an excellent suggestion. I really, really, really do hope that various political figures on the left in Florida continue to visit and check in on that facility, because I am truly worried about the actual treatment of prisoners in that concentration. Again, the goal and aspiration for these camps is to mimic the conditions of CCOT and El Salvador. Republican politicians were enamored with the entire idea. There was a charm offensive to try and get Americans to accept the idea of CCOT. And similarly with this Everglades Auschwitz camp that they have built in the span of a week, they are trying to convince the American people to accept that that's just the way things are. And look at how cute and funny it is. We have all this merch for the concentration camp. But what is necessary right now is building up our muscles to resist this, building up our ability to say no to this, building up our ability to dig ourselves out. And local politicians in Florida are going and visiting this Everglades facility in order to make sure that people are, in a sense, protected from the worst abuses that could otherwise be visited upon them. So I know Anna Eskamani, I thought we talked about this earlier, is going to inspect it, but other politicians, other people, other progressives in the political scene in Florida should also be doing the same. If you are in contact with any of your local, Florida politicians who are, not horrible, awful conservatives, encourage them to also go and inspect these facilities. It may very well save lives, just as a final course of action to shout out. But remember, folks, figure out where you're going to be on July 17th for the Good Trouble Lives On protests. I'm going to link that one last time. And also check out those trainings. Very, very important, because we need to get as many people out there as we can. Got a lot of dots filled out already, and we still have a couple weeks to go. Let's fill out this map as much as possible, okay? And with that, I'm just going to end by saying it's a really bad day. And there's a lot of really awful suffering coming down the pipeline. And it is okay to be hurt. It is okay to be angry. It is okay to be heartbroken. And understand that a lot of that comes from a place of love. You love people who are going to be hurt by this. Friends, family, neighbors, fixtures of your community. And I know that it's very, very tempting in a moment like this to give in to despair, to give in to this feeling of defeat, to crawl into a hole, to curl up, to feel like you're just going to stop. Like, why even bother going on? I understand. But understand that if we continue, and if we get up, if we dust ourselves off, if we fight with all of that love, with all of that rage, with all of that sorrow, we will win. We will win. There will come a day when we stand victoriously over our enemies, where we will have the ability in our hands to make this world a better place. We will be able to get Medicare for all. We will be able to fix the courts. We will be able to heal this broken nation, and we will be able to end the jackbooted thugs that currently have their boots waiting to press on our necks and the necks of every single person we love. And we will win. That love, that rage, that sorrow, it is not in vain, and we will win. So get out there, don't give up, and give them hell.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
They're outnumbered. It's just how the maths. Exactly, sweet blasphemy. Get mad. Don't make lemonade. What is that Cave Johnson quote? It's so fucking good. I think we need that quote right now.
All right, I've been thinking. When life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad! I don't want your damn lemons! What am I supposed to do with these?
Take the lemons.
Demand to see life's manager. Make life rue the day it thought it could give Cave Johnson lemons. Do you know who I am? I'm the man who's gonna burn your house down with the lemons. I'm gonna get my engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns your house down.
Burning people. He says what we're all thinking.
It's when life gives you lemons, you get angry.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, daily, plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.